Welcome yet again to another Kindred UMC live show. Coming to you not live, but pre-recorded from my front room, aka Kindred Studio A. My name is Chris Hayden. I am the pastor at Kindred UMC.
Hi, I'm Courtney Young. I'm the Director of Community Engagement at Kindred UMC.
And I'm Preston. And wash your car, because it probably needs it.
They always do.
And it makes you feel better for whatever reason. Washing machines.
Nah, manual labor doesn't make me feel better.
It's not manual labor.
No, the results of the manual labor. That's.
is,
you go to a gym, you should understand this concept.
Your car,
Yeah, but the manual labor at the gym does make me feel better.
Yeah, because you're the asset.
Not while you're doing it.
Make the
it
car.
Sucks while you're doing it.
I disagree. I enjoy doing it.
Well, you're not doing it right then.
That's right.
You should be doing it harder than that then. It should hurt a little.
Also
It does hurt, but I still enjoy it.
I also heard word of that you don't try hard enough in the gym.
Oh no.
That's just my daddy's hat, but whatever. That's fine. We're going hatless.
Can you guys
today.
not fight in front of me? It makes me uncomfortable.
You're the pastor.
We are continuing our march through the Decalogue, the Ten Commandments, found in Deuteronomy and in Exodus, and we will be looking at the one from Exodus. We are at the final commandment, but I've decided that this is not the final week. There's one more week that we're going to look at, and it's the epilogue for the Decalogue. And then maybe that's what I'll call it next week, the epilogue for the Decalogue. But we are looking at the last commandment. So can we like march through a little bit? Like what? So the Ten Commandments they're about like be faithfully obedient to God. Okay, how do you do that? And you split them in half. What's one half? What's the other half? It's the Shema.
One is how to love God. One is how to love your neighbor.
Yes, perfect. So like, yeah, how do we love and worship and relate to God? And then how do we love and relate to each other, your neighbor? And that's how the Ten Commandments kind of split in half. And so this is the last one in what I call the social laws that are about like how do we treat each other. And it is Exodus chapter 20, verse 17. It sounds like this. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's spouse. You shall not do it with a mouse. You shall not. No, I'm joking. It says you shall not covet your neighbor's wife because they don't have a sense of humor. And if it said spouse, it would rhyme and it would be as Dr. Seuss and it would be great.
Dr. Seuss is not Jewish. I think he's very German.
Well, the Christians and the Jews, like we get it from both ends, so we got them covered either way. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife or male or female slave or ox or donkey or anything that belongs to your neighbor. So let's just, again, like we did last week, we have to just acknowledge the patriarchy here. It says you shall not covet your neighbor's wife because the law was written for men. And it wasn't written for women because they're not quite fully people. I mean, I guess they're people, but they're not real people. Like, at least that's the way it was kind of treated in the Old Testament. And it's an unfortunate historical reality that we have to swallow. The real truth of things is that as these laws progress throughout, because the scripture is over a large span of time, as these laws progress, because they get kind of like reiterated throughout the history of Israel, they become more egalitarian, and so this is not an excuse to condone chauvinism or men first type of thinking. In fact, it's the opposite. This is the starting point, and we see this progress more and more as you get through the Bible. The laws become more egalitarian and more understanding and like moving people into more of a men and women are equal. So I just have to acknowledge that because it's a thing that keeps people away from faith a lot. Is that the fact that this was a really horrifically patriarchal society. So let's just acknowledge that. And let's just, for interpretive purposes, let's just call it spouse do not covet your neighbor's spouse or property or servants or employees or their farm animals or anything like that. So it begs the question, what's the word covet mean?
I don't know. That was going to be my question.
I have always put it as wanting something because it's someone else's. You're envious of something only because you know he has it. I think she has it.
That's a good working definition.
Yeah, it's not to like, you didn't think of it first. That's what's always irked me.
Okay.
So when someone sees
it's not something you want, and then you see, like,
I see she has an iPad, and I go, you know what? That's not really fair that she has one and I don't.
Yeah.
5 minutes earlier, I was not thinking I need an iPad.
It never
in my
even
life
occurred to me
help
to have an iPad.
Yeah. It's not gonna. Yeah, right. That's right.
I think it's a fair, and the reason I'm asking is because it's not exactly 100% clear what that word means. It's a Hebrew word that we interpret into English to say the English word covet, but even the English word covet kind of has a little bit of broadness around it. I know it has something. It's in the family of jealousy.
It's like an envious.
Yeah, it's in the family of envy.
Like
it's in that area. Do you want to take a stab at it using context clues? What would you make of this commandment?
Don't be jealous of your neighbor's house.
Don't like The Bachelor.
Yeah. So, I've been like mulling this over for a while, and here's, as best as I can work out, here's what I think is at the heart of coveting. So people are kind of uniquely, in all of the species on the planet, people are uniquely empathetic. Like, even people who are kind of jerks are empathetic in the sense that they can feel what other people are feeling. And, and when people cannot do that and they do not have the ability to do that, it's a condition. It's like a mental illness. It's considered not only out of the average, out of the ordinary, but it's considered like this is a defect, And it's one of the things that's kind of separated us, evolutionarily speaking, from the other species. It's our ability, even before language, it's our primate ability to kind of communicate and feel what everyone else is feeling. And these are the best things about humanity. Like, not that you have an answer to the problem, but when somebody says, I got a new job, or my granddad died, or, I just got a puppy, or whatever, that we can celebrate or grieve along with them, even though that doesn't have any impact on our situation. I got a new puppy. It's not going to matter to me at all, except for the fact that I'm excited now. And like it's a beautiful, wonderful thing about human society.
It's very weird.
Yeah. Oh, and it's literally it brought us from like the animal kingdom into like actual consciousness, as far as like a human level of consciousness, because we could work together better than any other species on the planet, including like Neanderthals, which like
are now another species. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like we just were really, and they were bigger and stronger than us, and we still beat them out. And it had at least the theory is this is millions of years ago, so who knows? But the theory is that it has to do with our ability to genuinely commune with one another, genuinely empathize. So here's what I think covet is. I think covet is when that gets inverted. I got a new puppy.
Did you?
And you're not excited. You're like,
crazy eyes.
yeah. So
it's chaos.
What?
That's what chaos is. Isn't that chaos?
Well, I think it certainly can lead to chaos.
Well, okay, that's not what I'm saying. So like, when you're expecting the emotion back, you send out an emotion. I'm very sad about this. I would like you to be sad with me, without saying I would like you to be sad with me.
Yeah, you're making a request.
You make a request unless you demand it, and then you're a sociopath. But I'm sad. Please be sad with me. Envelop in the situation with me.
Yeah.
But the covet is, I'm sad.
Well, it's funny you said make a request to like that's what temper tantrums are.
Yes.
I'm sad, so I'm gonna make everyone else sad. Like that's a temper tantrum.
To demand it, yeah. But to request it is
a profoundly human thing.
Yeah.
So the story that comes to my mind is several years ago when Hurricane Irma came through, and I think this illustrates a really important fact or factor about what happens. Like, so one of the things that makes coveting rather than just wanting is the tunnel vision of it. And so here's what I mean by that. So when Hurricane Irma came through, we were living in Apopka. We lost power for several days. But that was all. But, like, it could have been a lot worse. We could have, literally it could have done serious damage to the house. We could have been in danger. We could, all kinds of things could have happened. But the thing that happened is we lost power for several days. It was in the middle of the summer, so it was really like hot, and we were sitting there with the windows open. Nobody could go to work because there was no power anywhere. So like literally, my wife and I were sitting in the house with the windows open. It was hot, sweating, no TV, no internet, no radio, no nothing. And like I'm literally making paper airplanes. That's what I was doing. And she was like doing Sudoku. We were just sitting at the dining room table.
We're old.
Just doing whatever we could to keep our minds from like going crazy, But my phone still had battery because it was like the first couple of days. And so I was getting little updates from people whose power either hadn't gone off or their power had come back. Here's what coveting is. Every time I got one of those texts, I was like, oh, I'm so happy for you. Like sweats dripping down my, like I'm miserable. And oh, good for you. You got power back. That's coveting. I think this is my working. I'm like, there isn't a hard and fast. So I encourage everybody to really do some work and like figure out what you think this means. What is God asking of us when we talk? But I think that's what it is. And what it does is I get hyper focused on what they have that I don't, rather than living into the real reality, which is, thank God I've got a roof over my head. Thank God my wife and I and my dog are okay. Thank God we've got a gas grill that like we can eat. Like we literally had the first night I made a ribeye and tater tots on the grill, and it was like good eating, like it was like, this is delicious and amazing. But that's not what I was seeing. All I was seeing was, how come we don't have power yet? That's, I think, what coveting is.
Like, we're so streamlined that everything good is already accepted. And now, what's the next? There's always what's the next. Why? Okay, I'm fine to have all this stuff.
It's kind of, it's particularly nefarious in like American Western culture.
Oh yeah.
And don't get me wrong, there are good things that can come from that.
And have.
And like, yeah, we owe a lot to like, we're not there yet. The sense of like we can do better, and that's kind of all, like I when I find myself in tense conversations with people about social issues and all kind, like that's like all everybody talks about nowadays. But like anything like that, the thing that I'm always kind of struck by is it feels like you're walking around thinking that America is like a really bad place to live where everything sucks, or just the West in general, like the Western capitalist kind of idea. And whatever you think about capitalism and wherever your politics or your like wherever you fall in that, one thing that you do have to acknowledge if you're going to not covet is that, we have it amazingly well here. This is one of the safest, most comfortable, most enjoyable, most free, most empowered places to live, not just in the world, but in all history of human existence ever. If like up until now, there's never been a better place to live than in a society where you are free and for the most part protected and have access to technology that's just mind-blowing, miraculous medical treatments, mind-blowing, miraculous entertainment options, like just all of the things that we have. The reason I lift that up is because it's it's a broader example of covet. Well, this place sucks. Like, no, it doesn't. This so far in human history is among the best places and times to live. You know, like, and there's an underappreciation for, and I'm not talking about like, and so you owe it to everyone. Like, it's not about that. I'm not talking about who you owe it to, but it's more about the internal recognizing and appreciating the things that you have rather than focusing on what you think someone else has that you don't. Like, it's really a soul draining thing that's going on right now. And I see it a lot. And I'm trying to practice a lot more gratitude these days. And it's, you know, some of this is my own thoughts around COVID and being in isolation for so long. And I thought we were coming out, and now it turns out we're not. And just all of that kind of stuff. Like, in tough times, I find it really helpful to, like, let's focus on, not to the exclusion of grief, because grief matters, and there are things that people have lost, and grieving and being sad is healthy and good. Well, somebody's at the door. But oftentimes we can make so much out of the things that are dysfunctional and the things that we don't like that we miss out on the gratitude and the appreciation for like what is.
I've heard this said, and I won't claim it as mine, but
come on in. Brandon's here, everyone. That's okay. We got to a late start, so it's okay.
I won't claim it as mine, but it's treat the gratitude as your foundation to build off of instead of push from to go grab something else to build with.
Yeah.
It was a weird, like, it's this envious, covetous talk.
Yeah.
So stay in your camp. It's okay.
Well, and I think there's something important to acknowledge about the specific word covet is not saying, it's not the negation of, oh, that looks nice, I think I'd like to go get that. That's perfectly lovely and an important part of being a person, you know? Like, so there's actually nothing wrong with, hey, I got an iPad, and being like, oh, that's awesome, I would love to have one of those. That's not coveting. And that's not a negative, bad thing to feel. In fact, it leads us to aspire to things. It can spur in us great things.
But it's why it's this gray area.
Yeah.
Like, what's the difference between aspiration and wanting something without gratitude?
Well, and it's another broad phrase, but I like to say, like, I like to couch things in, like, what would you sell your soul for? That's always for me, a really good measure. Because this is maybe, I think, the only law that is actually internal of all of the commandments, of the 10 commandments. So, like, do not lie. You have to objectively out loud do something to lie. Do not murder, do not kill. Like, these are obvious acts that somebody can witness and you can see.
Right.
Do not worship any other gods. Like, that requires some kind of an external expression of something, you know? But this one's the only one, like, if anyone's coveting, the only one who will know about it is the person who's coveting. You know, unless they're, like, being a jerk about
Would
it.
you say this is where Christianity starts to get tricky?
Yes.
This is where, like, power starts to come in. I'm less covetous than you are.
Well, okay.
Follow what I'm doing here.
This is why I added another week, because we're actually going to talk a lot about that next week, because there's a little epilogue after these 10 commandments are given. Because these 10 commandments are given, they're spoken by God to the people. And then we're going to talk about the people's response to that. Mm-hmm. And I think we're going to, it is my plan, because I've already done because I was originally planning on doing both of these together, but it's just too much content. And so I've already done a lot of the exegetical work and like trying to get to the bottom of it. And like, that's exactly where this is going. The response, the Christian response for 2,000 years, which has almost without fail devolved into, you're not doing it right.
Yeah.
Right.
How can I benefit from
Yeah.
this?
Why is the carpet red?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, and this is, I think, this particular commandment, I think, is a very strong indicator that this is a law that is inviting you to look inward, not look outward.
Right. Yeah, I was going to say, to compare it modernally towards situations happening now, like call out culture or cancel culture now is 1-to-1. Where this is touching on, they have to work on things too. Leave them out. This is with you. And if you're not comfortable working with yourself, we've got other things to work on here. Don't covet others' things when you're not really comfortable with yourself.
Yeah.
Which is probably why you're coveting other people's things.
Right.
It's all a loop.
Yeah.
Which people are scared of.
Yeah. There are some, so like my wife and I we met somebody who won $1 million, who's just a friend of a friend. And,
Thank you.
Where is it?
I don't want you to call me out like that.
I bought an iPad.
God.
That's where all this iPad has been coming from?
It's rose gold.
Yikes.
No, we met somebody, and ever since then, like every time because we order a lot of groceries because of all this stuff. So anytime we're out and actually get something at the store, we pick up a lotto ticket for fun. There are some people who can't do that without losing their mind about it. And it's because I think it's rooted in this commandment, in the like the desperate desire to and missing out. Like, I have a lot of anxiety lately because I'm actually incredibly satisfied and happy with, like, I love where we live. I love who I'm working with. I love our friendship group. I love what I'm doing for a living. Our life is just so great right now. And like part of the way that my covet, and it's not even covet, but like a slight sidestep from it that I think is related to this, is like when you have everything you want and all of a sudden I start to panic on like it could be taken away or what am I going to lose, and what, like, and this is a really strong invitation to like, okay, look inward.
Right.
That this is not an external thing. This is about my relationship with my creator and my neighbors. And it should be also noted, neighbor interpreted very broadly in the original Hebrew context. Anybody you are connected to is your neighbor. And in this world, we are connected to just about everybody. So Muslims across on the other side of the world are your neighbor. You know, people living in China who you've never met, they are your neighbor. And as well as your neighbor is your neighbor, you know, like, and so it's this invitation to like, don't look at them, look at you. Like, how are you either expressing gratitude or you know, worshiping God well and connecting with people around you well, rather than looking at them externally. So, any final thoughts?
I had two things and then I'm done. My first one that's been like pining at me is, does buyer's remorse say anything about this to either of you?
So I actually did a little bit of I studied it a little bit when I was doing my bachelor's in psychology. Buyer's remorse is an interesting phenomenon, like getting something you want that you think you want, and then realizing it didn't fulfill your like imaginary kind of aspiration. And one of the things that triggers buyer's remorse is, and maybe you can identify, if you've ever been shopping, bought something, and then continue to shop after you bought it. Mm-hmm. So like buying a house is a really good example. One of the best things you can do to not feel buyer's remorse is like, after you've bought a house, and you've like signed and you're committed, your money's on the line and your like your future's on the line, don't like shut down all of the Zillow, all of the real estate, don't look at anything else and then go like, oh, we could have, if we just we could have, would have. Like, it's not helpful. It's not, our souls are like, they suffer when that happens. And so like you see it a lot too in relationships. Like, you settle down. This is a thing with fear of commitment. Settling down with somebody, and then if you get into a committed relationship and your head's still on a swivel, then there's like almost a no hope that relationship can survive. Right. That's not the way you do it. And if you're not ready to do that, then you shouldn't be committing to that serious relationship.
This is perfect because it's tied to my second thing, and then I'm done. It's the what's next fallacy. It's a huge, like, our progressive fallacy. It's what our brain does. It's what I was saying before. You build a foundation of gratitude. I accept these things that I have, and they're very good, and I like them, and I'm very appreciative. Now what?
Yeah.
Now I sit on my foundational mound, and I see someone else's foundational mound. Now what?
And it's bigger than mine.
Yeah. Why
it's a little bigger than mine.
Yeah.
Or faster than mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, my mound's moving slowly compared to theirs. Theirs has wheels. Yeah, but it's this, I don't know what it is, competition or something. It's what made our brains grow, I guess.
Yeah, that's kind of the tricky part about it. Competition is not a bad thing, but when it crosses a certain threshold, and like, what would you sell your soul for? And whatever the answer to that question is, you need to look at it. Like, and you need to be honest with yourself about answering that question, and then you need to look at that. And everyone has one. Like, don't feel so ashamed of that you can't bear to look at it. No, we all have. We all have things that we would sell our souls for, like, and that's why we need grace. But like, the covetousness versus the desire and the competition, the covetousness is it comes down to that, like, what would you sell your soul for? And when we get to that place, even though it looks like it's going to be something that's edifying and like life-bringing, it never is. You can't sell your soul for something and gain life. It doesn't work that way, And so then your buyer's remorse, the relationship stuff, like, all of those things are basically rooted around that, and it's proven in recent history. Oh man, proven. And psychologists are studying this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's a real thing that happens. The last thing I want to say is that I want to point out about this particular law is, this is a law that only benefits the person who obeys it. It's not, so like, don't kill. That's a good law. It benefits the person who would have been killed.
Or a couple people.
Yeah. Like, so, but this is a law that indicates something about the heart of our God, that the rules are not, and this is where we're going to go next week, the rules are not there to oppress and control. The rules are there to, and that's why I called it 10 Rules for a Better Life. Like, that's really like, it's a little bit of an ironic like title, because it's kind of like a self-helpy kind of sounding title, but I really mean it. Like, this law is given as a gift to people so that people can live a full, lovely existence. And this law indicates that. This is a law that is only for you. Do not covet is only for you, so that you can be happy and full, So, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Amen.
You got it right this time.
I did.